はい、皆さん改めまして、こんばんは。コミュニケーションデザインディレクターの田村かの子です。この時間からは、アーティスト、トークの、何段だこれはわからなくなってしまいましたが、コラボレーションミーティングというタイトルで、今日のアーティストトークをお届けしたいと思います。で、出演は参加アーティストのオキさん、パベルヤニツキさん、ヒョンジョンパークさん、で、この3人をお迎えして、私がモデレーターを務めながら、お送りしたいと思っています。7時半頃まで、お送りする予定です。で、今日のプログラムなんですけれども、それ、ちょっと前置きとして、説明を、まず日本語でしたいと思います。トーク自体は英語をメインにやろうというふうに思っているんですけれども、ちょっと英語と日本語を混ぜながらできたらいいかななんて思っていますが、まず参加アーティストのパベル・ヤニツキさんという方は、ポーランドの出身で、後で詳しくまたご紹介しますけれども、彼は、ご自身の作品でも参加しているんですが、実は2つのコラボレーションに携わる予定だったんですね。で、パベルさんが、アーティストとしてもそうですし、メディアアーティストともしてもそうですし、そのデジタル、テクノロジーの、知識がすごく豊富で、技術者としても、ブロツワーフで活躍しているということで、いろんな、経歴と得意技をお持ちなんですけども、そのパベルさんと、オキさん、そしてパベルさんと、パクさんという2つのコラボレーションが展開される予定だったんですね。なので、今日はこのトークの時間では、そのお二人のコラボレーションが、完成に至らなかったんですけれども、もし、この後も、このコラボレーションが続けられそうなら、で、ちょっと妄想で、絶対にそれが実現するという前提のもとに、この途中になっているコラボレーションをどういうふうに進めていくかっていう、ミーティングを公開でやるみたいな気持ちで、トークをできたらなというふうに思っています。ですので、それぞれの、お二人、アーティスト2組ずつで出てきてもらいますけれども、今どういうことを考えていて、そのプロジェクトがどこまで進んだのかっていうことをお話しいただいてから、その後は2人を中心に私も入りまして、この後どういうふうに、作品進めていけばいいかなっていうのを、話し合う機会っていうふうにしたいと思います。ですので、まず最初はですね、オキさん、パベルさんの、ペアから行きたいと思いますので、最初にオキさん、パベルさんをお呼びしたいと思います。ここからメインは英語に切り替えますので、どうぞよろしくお願いします。お付き合いください。オキさん、パベルさんいますか？ Hello!
Hello.
よろしくお願いします。How are you?
Thank you. Really fine. Hope you too.
Yeah, so Pavel, what time is it there in Wrocław?
It's morning. It's 10 a.m.
10
So
a.m.
the city is starting slowly today, slowly because of the snow. So
Is it cold out there?
Yes, for local standards, it's cold about 10 degrees Celsius degrees under the zero, so it's more or less cold.
I see the snow back back
Yes,
yourself.
I
Yeah.
should maybe show this snow more time. By the way, what you see behind my back is actually most cultural district in the city because there is a puppet theater located there. Of course, my mothership institution, the Art Center, is here. Also, Opera House, a lot of nice places. So if you visit Wrocław someday, don't forget to see these places.
Thank you. パベルさんはアグニーシカさんの同僚なんですよね。ブロツワーフのアートセンターで一緒に働いているという。なので、今日もその辺からお送りしてもらっているようですが。So, and hello, オキさん。今ちょっと声が聞こえづらいかな、オキさんの。ミュートになってるかもしれないです。So maybe I can introduce you two first, and then maybe you can also talk about your project after that, while Oki-san is turning on the volume. Okay, so Pavel Yaniski is from Poland and lives and works in Poland, and he engages in a wide spectrum of techniques, approaches, and protocols, and create works using synthetic senses programming techniques. And an important role in his creativity is drawn from historical and current contexts, in particular, the perceived history of art and something that could be called the history of thinking. And he creates and continuously develops mechanisms and ideas of alternative futures. And Oki-san, do we hear you now? 聞こえないかも。So, Oki-san, just turning on the sound, is from Kanagawa Prefecture in Japan, and his ancestors are Ainu from around the Ishikari River, and he's a creator and performer of the tonkori, a traditional stringed instrument of the Karafto or Ainu. And he has been developing a unique style with an innovative sound based on Ainu tradition. So he leads the Okidub Ainu band that has performed at various festivals around the world. And as the head of the Chikar Studio music label, and he also produces Umeko Ando and Mareureu, and those legendary Ainu singers. So, maybe Oki-san, もしつながりにくいようだったら一回入り直してもらえるといいかもしれないです。Okay, so while we wait for Oki-san to come in again, maybe Pavel-san, can you introduce yourself a little bit and also the project that you have started working on with Oki-san, the Ainu Asset?
Okay. So hello, everybody again. I'm Pavel from Wrocław in Poland, in Europe. And Kaneko actually introduced my activities really precisely. It's really hard to add something more.
It's on the website.
Yes, it is also on the webpage. So if you want to read even more, you can definitely do that. And basically, I'm artist working on the field of so-called media art, which is very hard to define actually nowadays because nearly all artistic activities are in some way filtered by media infrastructure. But I think there are some artists especially concentrated on that, what this filtering means. And that's my field, actually. And I joined SIAF invited by Agnieszka Kubicka-Dzieduszycka, and that was totally different situation, of course, when we started, because that was before pandemic. So Agnieszka asked me to prepare a work, a specially created work for SIAF, and what was really important from the beginning was to localize in some way this work in the local context. And of course, Sapporo is some kind of mixture between at least two cultures, which means Japanese and original Ainu culture, probably some other cultures too, but let's say this dichotomy is very, very important. So I started to maybe studies to big word, but I learned a lot about this local context. I very quickly figure out that it's there is a lot of projects in some way engaging Ainu culture, but typically they was made in a way which was quite problematic for me, because a lot of those projects I was seen as a kind of draining the culture, nothing, not adding, but just draining. So I decided to, first of all, to let's say format my own activity in very simple way. I decided just to cooperate with artists from local context. As you know, that is the Oki. I hope he will return to our meeting soon.
I think he's trying, yes.
And just to concentrate on, let's say, crash between two personalities. And not to concentrate, on the backgrounds, because I believe that background itself is manifesting itself anyway. So our first idea was to build an interactive installation in Morare Park, really beautiful place. And because Oki is, of course, a master of Tonkori, and I'm also interested in sounds, the basic idea was to build installation created particularly with sounds, without physical elements, just sound structure in space. But that was complicated because of pandemic, so the plan was changed, and I decided to build something which will be rather web page oriented, or at least it will be in some way embedded on web page. So the second idea was to create an interactive work which will be, let's say, accessible for anybody who's interested, but not only as a viewer, but also if that will be a person with some skills in musical composition, in programming. This work is open for remix, for some kind of rebuild, restoration, changes, glitching, etc. So the idea was to start something which would be maybe a long-term project built on this idea, and of course the main part, let's say the content of the project was sounds, especially recorded by Oki for that, of course, on Tonkori. And to filter the project from some, let's say, typical associations of this kind of cooperations, I introduced to Oki Polish projects from 60s, actually, when first electronic music studio in Poland, in radio studio, was developed. And that was a really beautiful piece made in the studio by composer Włodzimierz Kotoński. And this piece was made from one hit in the drum instrument, just one single hit. So I asked Oki, okay, so let's make something like that. Please record for me a one hit on Tonkori, one sound. And that was really complicated. That sounds easy, but it's really complicated. Oki prepared finally nearly 300 of sounds. Actually. It was really hard to choose the best one. And,
okay, let's ask him why he prepared all the 300 words. 300 sounds.
He was really trying to find this one sound, but I think he can explain it better. But it's really hard to find what is actually this one essential sound from Tonkori. It's really hard to find this one. So I decide, okay, you prepared a lot of beautiful sounds. I use all of them. So I mapped all of the sounds on the screen, and now everybody who's using this work can just stay in front of the camera, move his or her body around, and trigger the sounds. They are more or less processed in electronic way, but they are still keeping this tonkory flavor. However, that was quite kind of complicated, for many reasons, complicated part, and I think we will be back on that topic with Oki in a few minutes. So
should we look at the website or the browser? Maybe we can ask.
I should do that?
No, I think somebody else on the backstage will show us the website, but
that would be great.
Yeah. All right.
So we can play a video to see how it works. The visual part is also really strongly inspired by Roots and Clouds topic of the festival. So actually entire image is processed in the way in which it looks quite like a cloud, I think. I hope it looks like a cloud. So I see only single images on my screen, but I hope everything is more fluent for rest of you.
Yeah, it's not going too smoothly, but but we get the idea that so these are the moving hands in front of the screen, right?
Yes. Hands or actually a body, because you can use any moving object or element. And this technique is actually very common for media art when you are using camera not as a tool for recording reality, but as a sensor to do something with actually information about reality. So I think that's okay. I think for the beginning.
Right. So, Oki-san, do you hear us?
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes. Do you hear me? Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Oh, such a digital thing.
So let me just briefly sum up what we were discussing in Japanese to make it short, maybe. 今、オキさんがつなぎ直してる間はですね、パベルさんの自己紹介も兼ねて、お二人がどういうふうに、制作を始めたかっていう話を伺ってたんですけど、特にパベルさんがさっき言ってたのは、札幌の地元の文化とか地元の人たちと何かやるっていう時に、アイヌの文化と何かやるみたいなことにすると、アイヌの文化っていうものからいいところだけを抽出した作品みたいなものが作られすぎているような気がして、それでパベルさんとしては、オキさんとやるときは、アイヌと何かやるみたいなことではなく、オキさんっていう一人の人と、パベルっていう一人のアーティスト同士のぶつかり合いっていうことでやれば、そこには必ずオキさんのアイヌの文化っていうものもついてくるはずなので、そういうふうにコラボレーションをやりたいって思ったっていう話をしていたんですね。で、その他、本当は萌え沼公園での展示を想定していたんですけども、中止を受けてこの変更したプロジェクトでは、何か観客が見ることだけを想定する作品じゃなくって、インタラクティブなもので、参加を促すようなものを、トンコリと一緒に作るっていうことで、パベルさんから最初、ポーランドの音楽家の例を出して、このプログラムに使えそうなトンコリの一番いい音1音録音してって言ったら、オキさんが何百音も録音してきてくれて、すごいトンコリの これだっていう音を探すのが難しかったっていう話を今してたんですけど、それについては、なんか、沖さんの方からどういう、その時のこととかちょっとお話しいただけますか？
Yeah, because one thing about program is I really don't know what is a real Tonkori sound. Pavel asked me, real Tonkori sound, good sound, But when I try to make a good sound, especially one note, like, well, is it good sound or not? I start doubt myself, because the tonkori is like a rhythm instrument, If I do, it's like sounds like a tonkori, but when I try one note, it's getting bored, So this is my problem. So that's why I needed to send you hundreds of tonkori sounds because I couldn't decide which one is the best. Yeah, sorry, Pavel, I made.
No, that's very interesting, I think, actually, because, in the interview as well, the interview that is available on the SIAF 2020 YouTube, Oki-san also mentioned that, first you heard the version that Pavel-san made for the first time, which was freely interpreted by Pavel-san, the tonkori sound. And, you said you thought that that's not tonkori. So you asked for a more, I would say, like pure version of the sound.
Yeah.
But then you thought that it was not satisfying in either.
Yeah.
So, for you, what is the real like tonkori sound? What makes tonkori so unique? And what is it that, for you, oh, this is tonkori and this is not?
Because, I always don't like engineers doing, for my, studio work, sometimes I doubt the engineer, is it good sound or not? So the Pavel changed the sound of the tonkori. For me, it's like very distorted and very aggressive, more like a digital sound, Then wait a minute, this is not a tonkori sound, Then I asked Pavel, maybe, bring the sound back to the natural. Then he did it, But I'm not satisfied, naked tonkori sound now, So, well, because of that, this is the combination of the sound and the visual, I made the sound without visual, and the Pavel put some visual images in his program, right? So then total image completely changed, So before that, I don't have any images of the collaboration, So it was like a really first time collaboration with Pavel, Yeah. So that's why I was thinking, maybe this is interesting because, probably I misunderstand Pavel's artwork, So I'm not sure about what is what is his deep thought, But so probably I needed to work together and slowly understand his artwork, Pavel's artwork,
If I can make a commentary,
Yes, please.
That's of course a huge topic, so we can discuss about this years probably. But I want to say that what is really important for me is that some parts of the situation really feels the pattern I've seen several times before, because it's of course actually what makes instrument sound the real one is, of course, not a physical shape of the instrument, but the player, the musician itself. And from one point of view, my goal was not to make virtual oki or virtual tonkori, but also I think that what oki can create, even if it will be distorted or changed, it is actually still moving through different media. On field of electronic art, for example, it's very typical when some musicians are angry because they want better instruments. They have, I don't know, digital synthesizer, but they want analog one which sounds beautifully, you know, and they really want to use them. And actually, if you give them better instruments, nothing is changed. But if you are working with really good musician, you can give him a good instrument, bad instrument, any kind actually of tool, and this musician can create something really, really valuable. So from my point of view, it's and what makes me really happy, you know, my idea was to let's say transmit of this a piece of this really hard to define flavor or spirit which creates between oki and the instrument. So I don't know, it's real tonkori or something, but this magical part is important.
Interesting. Yeah, it's actually the song is a flower, you know. It's constructed by the time, you know, like yeah, it's a time, you know, time and space. Yeah, this is a flower, you know. The single note like this. Maybe this is the stem of the flower, you know. これは花弁かもしれないよね。You know, so if I play a single note, it's like a part of the flower, you know.
Yeah, I agree totally. And actually, in interactive art, this is a different situation because that's actually a beautiful metaphor. We create part of the flower, one piece. Another one is in hands of the audience. Audience became partly author. And it's always different, always really hard to catch up, I think.
I was actually curious how Oki-san thinks about this interactive part because, you know, when you play tonkori on stage, you basically have the total control basically over what you create, and the audience is actually, you know, receive what you create. So there might be interactive part of it, but it's different from, you know, this kind of interaction where you can, the viewer can actually control the sound experience. So what do you think about that? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, this time it's Pavel is a conductor. I'm a musician, so the Pavel is writing a score. You know, I'm following his score. But my problem is sometimes I can't read the score. So maybe I have another idea, you know. So maybe, you know, two different ideas clashing, you know. Yeah, in future, if we continue this project, you know.
Pavel, when you work with sound, do you feel like you're a conductor? Or composer or player?
It's hard to say. It's probably a mixture. It also depends on the project because actually I started as my so-called artistic career in some kind of punk rock bands. So I was just playing on guitar. I was really bad player to say the truth, but enough for punk rock. So this is something. This basic experience is still very important for me, because if you can touch instrument, if you can cooperate in the band, that's the real feeling of collaboration. So if it will be a chance in the future to go back with Oki to work together, I'd be really happy if if we sit together and we play together and start from this very physical experience.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we can actually go back to the web page and hear the sound that you already have right now. Yeah. Let's hear the sound, because we just saw the images before. 聞こえないかな？
ノーサウンドだな。
全画面にしたら聞こえるのかしら。So maybe we can share the link on the. No, I think no sound. So maybe we can share the link on the comment of the YouTube link so that people can listen to what you have so far. But if you were to work on it more, what kind of things do you want to work on? Oki-san or Pavel-san. Oki-san, you were talking about like different ideas coming up about this collaboration.
Oh yeah. Well, sound totally is interesting, but of Ainu language, it's not. It's not like a sound, maybe word, but because a word including a meaning, So maybe it's not. I think, this up to Pawel. I don't know. This is a good idea or not. But when I see this programmed things, I just the idea of using Ainu language just came up my mind. Yeah.
I also don't know if it is good or bad idea. Definitely we have tried. We have checked if that works.
We have to try. Yeah. Before think, we have to try.
Have you worked with like language or words before, Pavel-san?
Actually, yes. Many times also with generative languages. So definitely that is a potentially very fruitful direction. What I was also trying to do was to, remove spoken language to simplify the communication, to put all meanings on sounds. But it's not like I have something against the language. Absolutely not. Actually, this idea which Oki proposed now seems to very reasonable for me. Also, of course, this set of sounds we have can be extended or partly changed by different sounds, so we can record words too. It's quite simply. Also, our audience can do that. So we're keeping fingers crossed for the people reworking this Ainu asset work. Actually, I got some response from a young composer, actually from Poland, but working in Scotland. and he's trying to make his own version. He's trying to reconstruct the work. I don't know actually what he's trying to do, but definitely he works actually with spoken language. So we will see.
Yeah, I was actually curious about that because in your instruction of the work, so you produced this software that works on Max MSP, and you said that this project is open to free processing and reconstruction. So actually everyone is welcome to download the software and modify it or make it on their own or upgrade it. I don't know how they can work with it, but what's your intention there? Why do you made it open to like an open source?
It's very simply as you all know, the typically if somebody is speaking about media art or digital art, is talking about something which is very new and has no references to tradition, to some kind of continuity in culture. And in my opinion, this is really, really not true. And actually every valuable work is in some way continuation of something that was exist before. So what I really want to create is a door to this kind of, connection for further development by others. So I want to, let's say, put the work into as an element of a chain in culture, chain of reworks, changes, commentaries, etc. And I think it's really important to do something like that, because it's it's changing things from really temporary personal creations into something more stable. Actually, also, for example, for now, due to again to pandemic's time, a lot of relations between people in societies are broken, and to restore these relations, you need to find a way to stimulate them. So I think it's partly something like that. If you can, in a critical way, reconstruct somebody else's work, you can think what was, in your opinion, good, what was bad. You can do something like that. So you know that was the reason actually.
I think that relates to what Oki-san was talking about in the interview as well, because I think at the end of the interview, Oki-san was saying that, you feel the need to update the Ainu culture too, so that not like fixating on the traditional stereotype kind of image of Ainu creation or Ainu music or culture. You said, the Ainu people are also living in this contemporary time, and, keep Ainu in the field of sports or Ainu in the field of culture. It can be, doing something new and create something new. So I think it relates to this continuation that you see is important. It's kind of resonating with what Oki-san was saying. But how do you think, Oki-san, when you are basically working with a very traditional instrument, but you are a contemporary musician, so how do you see yourself in the line of the history and all the roots accumulating?
Okay, yeah. When I feel thirsty, I had been, very thirsty because, my roots needed water, but a long time I don't, I missed my roots, because in this society, in Japan, it's very difficult to announce to the people, I am the multi-racial people, because I might identify myself, my Ainu and Japanese, I have a two identity, switching all the time. Then when I speak English, I have another character here, And but I, started play this instrument because the instrument and I felt some kind of freedom here, because I don't want to stuck just on the nine people, because that's narrow-minded things,
Mhm.
And when I look at the history of the Ainu people, I'm always open-minded to the overseas, always interested in different culture and merchandise, lots of things from China or Siberia, from Japan. Ainu culture itself is a not pure culture, mixed culture. So, I'm not Ainu fundamentalist. I'm like an ordinary Ainu who lives in 2021. Yeah. So the Ainu matter is for me. It's like a water or fire sometimes. So this collaboration with Pawel San, it's very good opportunity for me to, look at the Tonkori one more time with different perspective, from Poland.
Pavel, what do you like about Tonkori?
Actually, one really strong experience about Tonkori, which was partly very funny for me, was when I was beginning, I was trying, my typical way of research about Tonkori. So, okay, my first question was, okay, what is the tuning, what scale you are using playing Tonkori? And actually, when I was trying to check all that information, my mind was blowing, because I figured out that there is actually no tuning, because the strings has names, not the fixed frequencies, and it's a very unique approach, and really funny partly for somebody who's let's say grows up in European musical tradition. So basically, what I really like in my experience of Tonkori, that it totally destroyed my patterns about music in my. I really changed some fixed opinions. I was contaminated with them.
Wow. Nice. I think it's about good time, but do you have any other questions to each other?
Okay.
Or comments?
When we see each other.
Yeah, that's the good question.
That's an important question.
Main one, actually.
Yeah. So I have a couple of Polish friends, and so I feel some special feeling to you guys, Poland people, Especially I was in New York City long time ago, when I was end of the 20s. Kind of homesick because food is not good in New York City, but one restaurant saved my life called Polish Diner, the buckwheat things, buckwheat and some the stuffed meat, cabbage kind of stuff. It was really saved my life.
Maybe gołąbki, I think it's like.
Yeah.
No? Okay. There is actually a huge Polish diaspora in New York, so you probably met also a lot of Polish people there. I don't know. I'm thinking that there is maybe some kind of strange coincidence that we have, let's say, the same neighbor, because actually what is between Hokkaido and Poland is Russia. Yeah. So it's still the same country, and together we are, embracing this space in some way.
Nice. Before we say goodbye to Oki-san for now, can we hear a little more of Tonkori, please?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and I need to show you my T-shirt that I got from
you got
your
it.
concert.
Ah.
This is the new Oki band T-shirt.
Yeah. I designed for the snowboarder, design of the snowboard. Yeah, this red one is the sole. The front is the dark blue one is the front.
I just wanted to show.
Pavel, you do the snowboarding?
Actually, not so much, but maybe I should start, because we have a lot of snow now. So maybe my next activity will be snowboarding.
Okay, so that was a little bit of my show-off time. So please, all for you.
Okay, the one very quiet song I'm going to play. This song is the Suma ka peka irete. This song means beside the ocean, the low tide, a lot of rocks, on the ocean, because tide is so low. And then some sea animal, maybe walrus, I don't know, on the rock. So hunter sneakily, back behind the animal and try to catch him, Yeah, it's a kind of sound of the hunting the sea animals, right? Do you hear?
you very much. ありがとうございました。
聞こえました？
聞こえました。生じゃないのがすごく残念だけど。
そうですね。コロナ終わったら生でトンコリやりましょう。
はい。札幌に集合ということにしましょ
そうですね。
So we meet again in Sapporo, Pavel, okay?
Yeah, definitely. I have some plans already. Waiting for better situation.
Okay, so let's say thank you to Oki-san, and now let's call in Paku-san because she's waiting for us to talk to us. Thank you, Oki-san.
Alright, bye
Bye bye.
ありがとうございました。ちょっと日本語も挟みつつ、ちょっとパクさんに参加してもらいつつしようかなと思うんですけれども、たくさんお話いただいたんですけれども、結構トンコリっていうものをどういうふうに扱うかっていう話が興味深くって、でも、コラボレーションの中では、トンコリをどう扱うかっていうのは、オキさんだけのことなんじゃなくって、パベルさんが、指揮者のようなものだからっていうお話とかがあって、でも、パベルさんに自分のこと指揮者だと思うのかって聞くと、やっぱりそこは、最初は、同じミュージシャン同士として体を突き合わせて、音を出すとこから始めたいよねっていう話になったので、やっぱり次、実際に会えるときにまた、そこから始めましょうっていうことだと思うんですけど、同時にこの、パベルさんが作ったMaxMSP のプログラムっていうのは、誰でも、オープンソースになっていて、編集ができるようになっているんですけれども、それもそのパベルさんはメディアアートとはいえ、長い歴史の中の、一つの、区切りとしてあるだけであって、未来につながっていく長い流れの中に、その自分の作品も置きたいので、そういう意味では、他の人とそれをシェアして、他の人がそこからまた何かを作ったりとか、そういう流れの中に置きたいんだっていうお話があって、それは沖さんがインタビューの中でもお話しされているような、現代のアイヌとして、新しいものもどんどん取り入れたアイヌっていうのがどんどん生まれていくっていう話とつながるなというお話もありました。で、アイヌが、沖さんにとっては、水か火のような感じがして、ルーツっていうのはやっぱり水が必要だよねっていう話がすごく最後の演奏ともつながってよかったなと思っております。はい。I'm just summarizing in Japanese. So let's call in Paku-san. Thank you for waiting. I'm sorry to keep you wait.
Hi, hello.
Hi. Thank you for waiting.
No, it's okay. It was very interesting to talk you guys on the backstage. So yeah, it's a virtual venue, but it exists on the backstage. So it was very strange and interesting for me.
Yeah, you were actually literally waiting backstage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for that. Let me introduce you properly. So this is Hyunjung Park, and born in Korea, South Korea, and lives and works in Hokkaido, Sapporo right now. And she studied at Korea National University of Arts and Graduate School of Musashino Art University. And with her camera, she observes and records objects and phenomena at various borders between words, between life and death, between time, between countries, and between science and art. And she collects the moments when the ordinary becomes special, as seen in the records, and creates works offering you to experience them as a space of memory. So thank you for joining us. So maybe we can jump in and you guys can share what you have so far, because you started on this collaboration around this notion of wind, I think.
Yeah.
And I believe you were thinking of developing the work specific to the chikaho, which is the huge basement, underground. It's like a maze, actually.
Yeah.
For those visiting Sapporo, I think, you never imagine having such a big maze underneath the snow. So, please let me, as you introduce your, project as well, like how you started and where you are so far with the collaboration with Pavel.
Okay, maybe I will talk first. And thank you for introducing me. And actually, the SIAF is the chance to meet to Pavel first. Actually, I'm an artist, and I also work on Hokkaido University and studied and researching and teaching some related to science communication. So I'm kind of window to Hokkaido University to connect to Hokkaido University and to the others. So especially in artists, because in our university we have no art practice department. So we only have some art theory department. So I'm the only artist that I work in Hokkaido University. So I've been the channel to connect with the artists. So maybe 2 years ago, when Pavel came in Hokkaido, the Sapporo, so I introduced and invited to our university, maybe the museum first. So when I met him in university museums, and I'm introduced a lot of things in museum, and I also introduced myself for the very long time, and and luckily, fortunately, our thought that was very interesting in my artwork. So that's the start point to communicate and talk each other to make some project to develop with. So that's the first chance to meet him. So I'm so glad and thank you for SIAF to meet him. He was a very good. He's very good collaborator and good artist to work with, and I think he is very good supporter also to make some artwork and develop some from the ideas to the artworks. So I was very impressive and
nice. So how did you to develop this idea of the work around the wind? Was that Hyunjun's idea or Pavel's idea or?
Maybe we talk each other. And it's we talk about what is the art and what is the science and what is the collaboration with art and science. And for me, the wind is the nature phenomenon, and maybe the interview that Pavel's interview, we can check some science collaboration with art and science and very scientific way and the real science. So it has some changes and differences between scientific way and science way. So we talk about that themes, and I think the perspective from art and science is very important, and that's the only way to figure out what is art and what is science. So I was trying to research and collect some art perspective way to making some wind. So this video is the script, kind of sketchbook of mine to figure out and make some what is the wind and what is the most impressive wind that I felt. So, and this is the video that for share with Pawel to make our common ideas and common feelings about the wind. So wind is a kind of first of this artwork. Wind is the nature phenomenon, but after that, collecting and scrap some images and videos, wind is not only the nature phenomenon, but also make some philosophical things and more bigger meaning for me. So we talk each other about that, the changes and some experience about the wind by the long emails. How about what's your ideas?
Yeah, Pavel, what were your responses to Park-san's ideas?
I think I agree with everything. So that's the first thing. When I met Hyunjun in University Museum first time, and we started to talk, my first impression, which was very strong, I still keeping this impression in mind, was that Hyunjung has a very special approach to art and science, because typically art and science is an idea which is manifesting in actually very codified way. There are a few very strong directions which are very typical, let's say artists illustrating science, or artists in some way amplifying experience of science. And in case of Hyunjun and what she is able to express, it's very different, because actually this approach is probably very complicated to verbalize, but I think it's something like Hyunjun see materiality of science, some kind of science as experience which can be shared, also emotional experience, which probably typically is bypassed in some way. So that was totally new for me. I learned a lot from Hyunjun, and I'm still learning actually. So, that's my commentary.
This is the first time to talk about this one. So thank you.
Good. This is what this meeting is about.
Yeah, it's open meeting. Yeah. That's good.
Right. So what was actually the proposal that you guys came up for the Chikaho? Can you explain a little bit more about the detail of the actual work that you had in mind?
Yeah. We talk. Maybe Pawel first, or
no.
Okay. Okay. So
maybe we can have the image coming from the website,
yeah,
or
that would be great.
from the SIAF website, maybe.
Yeah. So we talk about lots of ideas, not only the artwork, but also lots of things that we are thought about. And after the wind, after we select the theme as wind. We are talk about after that. We are talk about some nature things. Talk about the difference from nature things and artificial things, because we both are media artists and we are doing some technology anyway. And I'm still very confusing. So what is the real nature and what is the real artificial things, and what is the gradation between these gaps? So we are talking about making a new wind in very underground artificial venue, like in this case in Chicago. And Chicago is, as Kaonoko mentions, it was very unique space in Sapporo, and I was very shocked. First when you when I arrived, that's the first impression. It's very shocked. But Chicago is very bright and very clean space also. So that's not typical underground venue. So this gap was very, very interesting for me. So we make some new wind and some nature or some artificial wind in this Chicago venue. And so Pawel, and when I said that kind of stories, Pawel answered me like that sketches to mechanic or systemical things. So when we make some wind, we have some reference or we have some connection with the other things. So I'm still researching about the old archives from Hokkaido University in very scientific way. So the pictures that on the right page is the very old pictures, old daguerreotype, or the top of two are shooting by me, and that's the drift ice and forest. And this picture is taken by 1930 in Teshio Experimental Forest. It's very northern side of Hokkaido, and this Hokkaido University has a lot of experimental forest, a huge area, and I found it occasionally, and it's the real grass, the daguerreotype pictures, and nobody knows who are the peoples. But as the pictures exist, and we can find some wind, or we can find some changes in the pictures. So I try to figure out some wind. I'm trying to searching some wind in this picture and the other videos too. So I want to connect this era to the nowadays times. So I really want to connect the past and present and the other Teshio Experimental Forest or some forest to Chicago, and want to connect the different wind to the contemporary now present wind. So I'm think about the rest of these things, and when I wrote a very messy email to Pawel, and after he got my email, he answered me a very, very systemical, very logical, email for me.
Organized.
Organized man. So he is, I really agreed with. He is very good conductor also. So he said, so this is our system, our process to develop with the artwork.
So, Pavel-san, what did you think when Hyunjun had this idea of connecting different time and different spaces by analyzing the type of wind in a, with scientific, technique and
Okay, so actually that was, from beginning, that was very catchy idea for me, and I was accept this idea actually not but by analyzing it, but rather by intuition. That my intuition says me that's really good idea, and again, this is really different approach to art and science than most of artists or curators can express. So that was actually strong experience. Okay, I really want to do that. That's interesting. Also, when Hyunjung was talking about this present and past connection, I was before my eyes a space of Hokkaido Museum when there was two elements very near to each other. The old mammoth, reconstructed space, and parts of space rockets very near to this animal. So that is actually literally the same. And what I want to add to the Hyunjun speech, the Chikaho itself is a place which is located in public, and I think very teasing was also to create something which will be experienced by people not especially gathered for experience art, just by pedestrians walking around. So it's like, accidentally experienced art. That's something which seems to me very important, especially in the context of wind, because the wind is something you can experience. Actually without intention to do that. You can walk somewhere and wind just starts to blow. That's the good start point, I think. And finally, also we discussed. Actually, we also discussed it later because Hyunjun invited me to make some kind of presentation for her students, and it was about synthetic nature, partly, maybe mostly, and to create this some kind of synthetic natural experience, synthetic wind in underground. Was also very interesting for me.
So, I think, of course, it would have been so much interesting to see this work in Chikaho. And I can imagine people passing by the work will be also creating some kind of wind. So it's going to be mixed with the artificial wind that is made with this collaboration. So it's going to be, almost like collaborating with everyone passing by. So I think it's it's an interesting experiment. But I think you were now talking about developing this idea further, even if you don't have basically a promise where the next opportunity is going to be, or where the opportunity is going to be. And so what are you guys working on now? Like, what are your ideas? Are you planning this to be something that can be shown online, or does it have to be somewhere physical? And if it's physical, what are the elements that you need to actually finalize this program or project?
So maybe this time I can start.
Yep.
So definitely we have to go back to discussion. I was some way disconnect from the topic last month, but yeah, I think it's now we have a very strong idea and a sketch of the work, which can be materialized in more or less different places, which is really handy for now. Also, actually, our discussions produce some, let's say, side effects, side ideas. We also have to discuss. So that there are a few topics we can definitely continue. And also my relations with Korean art world is also beginning to grow. So I really I'm really I have really good intuition about the future of that project. So I hope it will be. We will be able to make it in a physical way, but maybe also to make something connected remotely in, let's say, shorter perspective, because of course we are still more or less grounded by the situation.
I totally agree. And yeah, actually, in the online communication, I enjoyed by the misunderstanding things. So the English is not my mother tongue.
None of us is.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. And the Japanese is my main language now, not the mother tongue, but so it's a little bit difficult to communicate with fully my deeply thought expression. But to the English for the English communication, I have to organize and think again. Think carefully. I have to do that, the process to organize my ideas. So it was very hard for me. And the misunderstanding, some gaps of meanings are very helpful for me, because it expand my ideas also. So it was very good. So I want to make and develop more from now on. And also, we are thinking about some physical exhibition also, that maybe I'm not sure that it is Sapporo or not, but we can make some small project in our university or the other space, other venue in our earth. So yeah, I'm very excited about that.
So let's say your project is going to be realized somewhere in a physical space. What kind of things does the final work affected by the final destination? Like, so if you were to exhibit your work in the university museum, do you actually plan to add any more elements, or do you actually change the resource of the research that you were doing? Like, does it affect the way you finalize the project?
Maybe I'm not sure that our university's venue are free or not, but yeah, its effects on the venue, because the site-specific installation is very affect from the venues, of course. So if we will do some physical exhibition in somewhere, maybe it changes to the way of presentation or something, I think. But the theme, the wind, is maybe not changing. Maybe I'm not sure, but yeah.
So the concept
this is the concept and the main thing. So yeah, I will think continuously.
Yeah.
I think we are in the moment when we have to, let's say, start think by doing, because we have really a good package of references, a basic idea, and we have to check which part of the idea will be, better passing the materialization or the other. But I totally agree with Hyunjung that this base topic, the wind, it's absolutely core of the project. It's I cannot imagine situation when we remove the wind.
Me neither. Yeah, but
okay, cool. Yeah, time is coming up. So do you have any questions to each other, or what's your okay, I guess the next plan is just to start working on it. But do you have any final comments to each other, or?
Well, finally, thank you for all the process, and I'm very messy person, like my background. So with the powers, I feel very freely, and it was very good to grow myself and think about myself, and also it was very good chance to think about a lot of things. So thank you for the powers, and thank you for the future also. I'm not sure that our executives, our exhibit or our artworks, I'm not sure that the goals shape or course presentation, but I want to think continuously with powers, and I hope to stop the COVID-19 situation, really. Yeah.
So thank you too, and so what I can, maybe I have no special questions, but I want to say that the ideas which Hyunjung introduced to me really changed my way of thinking. There's this idea about how art and science she can develop is really really different to actually any other existing approaches. So for me, it is most of a very strong experience, which I don't analyze this so much. I'm organized, yes, but not enough to analyze this because I'm still in the process. So thank you too, and your sentence, thank you for the future. It's really nice. I have to note that that's essentially what I want to say.
Thank you.
Pavel, can you elaborate a little bit more on how Hyunjun's approach was mind-blowing to you? Because I think also it's very important thing for us to understand the difference between art using scientific things or incorporating scientific ideas or doing science.
Okay, I'll be trying. So as I mentioned before, actually art and science is very strongly formatted direction in art. Most of works connect to media art in some way are now actually treated as art and science works too. And most of them are actually going in three directions. One of them is art is illustrating science, which is not bad. There's a lot of great artists illustrating some scientific discoveries, let's say. The second direction is art is amplifying science. It's very, let's say, modernist way. Entire modernism is actually positive attitude in art for science. And the third one is, let's say, kind of anti-modernism, when artists are trying to see dark sides of scientific progress and trying to make some kind of relation to them, maybe sometimes some predictions. Let's say the entire, it is especially really clearly to see in pop culture. There's a lot of dark visions of near future from cyberpunk, for example, and many others. And what was really surprising for me in Hyunjung approach is that she doesn't following any of these directions, but in the same time she's touching all important, at least for me, elements in art and science, and maybe also in technology relation, because there is a strong connection to emotional feedback to science in her work, and I didn't find this kind of approach in other works. There is strong connection to nature, but not in formatted way. So it's not critical. It's not very positive. It's, let's say, very in the process. Let's say in the process way. It's really hard to verbalize, really, but probably because nobody is doing things like that. There is no language apparatus to describe it this way. And also,
thank you for trying, though. It's really interesting.
I'm trying. Also, there is another element which we actually discussed with Hyunjun before, is like she's using technologies and media, let's say, tools without thinking if those tools are old or modern. Actually, it's completely timeless approach. Really, like, it's really hard to say. Like, she see future, present, and past in the same time, and choosing elements to create her own creations. So it is not like media slavery, when we are trying to use always new tools, or if you are really found one tool and you are keeping this tool and trying to use from one side to another. It's totally different. And for me, yes, that was really mind-blowing. That's a perfect explanation.
Wow. I see.
Wow. Thank you. That's great. That's a big present for me. Wow. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's about time. So thank you, Park-san, for joining us. And we would like to spend the rest of the time talking about Pavel-san's solo work, actually. So yeah, thank you, Park-san, again.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to the further development. And
yeah, I will
thank
share.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the future.
Thank you for the future. So,
Thank you for the future.
bye. Thank you.
今の最後のお話は結構興味深くって、パベルさんは、パクさんのア アートとサイエンスの結びつけ方っていうのが今までにどこでも見たことのないような結びつけ方をしてるっておっしゃってて、それについてもうちょっと詳しく聞いたんですけど、要するにそのアートが科学を何かの表彰に使ったりとか、何かすごく近代的な感じで科学を持ち上げて、増幅したりとか、あともうちょっと、ディストピア的な感じ、もしくはサイバーパンク的な感じに、サイエンスの見方っていうのを取り入れたりとか、そういったことっていうのはアートでよく行われているんだけれども、マクさんのやり方っていうのは、もっとエモーショナルな、感情が入ってくるようなフィードバックをサイエンスにナチュラルにつなげていたりとか、あととてももちろん自然とすごく強い結びつきを持ってるんだけれども、それがこれまでの従来的な科学と自然っていう関係性の中に当てはまるようなものでもなくって、しかも、でもただ批評的でもないし、何か自然を崇めるようなポジティブすぎるものでもないっていう、すごくこの中間のいいところを表す言葉が見つからないっておっしゃってるんですけど、なんかテクノロジーの使い方に関してもそうで、何か一つのものをずっと使い続けることにこだわったりとか、常に新しいものを急いで取り入れようという態度なのではなくって、テクノロジーやメディアに関しても、自分のツールとして取り入れるものが、例えばダゲレオタイプの写真とかそういったものも、あると思うんですけど、未来と現在と過去を自由に行き来するような使い方をしているので、非常に興味深いということでした。はい。So, can we spend a little bit more time with you to finally briefly talk about your solo work?
Yes.
Yes. Should we show the website?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please. We can show the web page. And definitely we can play the video. That's great. Okay, so that's the work called Tetoki, which is some kind of shortage from technology to the kids, and that work is actually a collection of miniatures of very small works. Accessible from a web page, which is very important, I think. And all of those miniatures are small interactive structures are related in some way to existing ideas in art, in technology, sometimes to existing works made before by other artists. So this is actually a collection of references in some way. And I created this, actually I started to work on this collection when I was teaching students basics of interactions. And I figured out that sometimes and important part of that is that it was connected to computer programming, the coding. So when I was teaching also basics of coding, I discovered that sometimes I need very simple examples for students, not to leave them with building everything from scratch, but sometimes give them some kind of structure they can change, maybe destroy, but maybe rebuild in some way. So that was the beginning of Toki. And also when these structures, these simple programs are already connected to existing ideas in art, they are appealing to them in strong way. So some students are better in coding, so they link to art to understand what I want to show them. Some are better in history of art, but they have a problem with coding, for example. That's typical problem. So that was a beginning, and really quickly I figured out that this collection of miniatures can be used, let's say, used as a base for exhibitions, not only for teaching, but just as mechanism for exhibition. And actually, what you can see on the screen now is part of this kind of exhibition. Actually, this one material is really especially important for us because this exhibition was curated by Maja Kreis, and she's also a person responsible for art mediation on SIAF. So she really added very valuable elements to the talkie, because when she started to work on this exhibition, she asked me, "Okay, Pavel, I have an idea that everything will be black and white. That will be exhibition mostly for kids, but without the color." So that was a revolutionary idea in terms of things for kids. And Maja was able to explain everything really precisely, because, for example, she checked some research about how kids see colors, and actually that's very problematic when the young human is starting to experience colors. So I built all the miniatures I remove the colors. I leave all in black and white. So that was something which allows me to simplify everything. And this is another important factor, because I really like this idea of simplification, which is not leaving something behind, but simplification as something which is a really challenging process of removing non-important elements from your work. So I think that's maybe that's enough for the beginning. Now, for example, we can see a work which is video feedback, which was a technique very important for early video art, and now we can reproduce this technique on web browser, for example.
So this is the type of reference that you were talking about, the reference that you made to the history of art and media art.
Yes.
So, okay, so children don't exactly know what the references are, but they are actually encountering with all these techniques and expressions that were invented in the past, I guess.
So it's complicated, I think, because of course this the Talkie project is actually for everybody, especially for kids in mind. But of course, kids nearly never came for exhibition alone. So always with parents or some kind of teachers. So a lot of people is trying to decode something from the exposition. Also, I think sometimes we can be really surprised how much kids knows about art already, because they can already be prepared in some way, sometimes accidentally. So they sometimes have a lot of references already in brains, And also, what was important for me, I think I should explain it a little bit more, is when I was starting my work as media artist, actually art was a method to introduce new technologies for people, especially in Poland, because Poland was on really strong process of changes between previous political system to the new one, and together with this new one political system, a lot of new technologies was brought to the country. Now, of course, now there's a different situation, and kids has a lot of high technology gadgets in homes, like phones, computer, console games, etc. So a lot of this kind of stuff. So art doesn't bring new technologies anymore to home, but is building some kind of alternative present. Not alternative future, not alternative future, but alternative present. the art can show you how use the same infrastructure you already have at home in a different way. And from my point of view, more valuable way, not only for, time feeding consumers machine, but to create some valuable, to express yourself. So part of motivation for create the talkie was connected to that.
So it's like an alternative way of looking at the world.
Yes. Alternative present actually. However, it's even more complicated because, for example, what also I was trying to show that some ideas in art actually are medium free and can be expressed in different media. So let's say the same idea, I don't know, 200 years ago was expressed on paper and pen, for example, or I don't know, on acoustic instrument in case of music. Today you can use electronic apparatus to express the same idea, but the idea still exists. So I think that's putting, different direction on who's the author, actually, what is the most important part of your work, because maybe my ego as the author of the talk is not the most important part of the talk, because the ideas I'm using are more or less stealed from previous works. And also when somebody will be able to catch the source code of the work and change something is also changing. That's the new work.
Nice. I think this way of thinking is also strongly embedded into your collaboration work as well. I think, this way of thinking of art as an alternative present, or this idea which is medium free, and you can actually choose how you will incorporate or how you will put out actually in a physical form. It's actually very strong starting point to start a collaboration too, I think, because you need to share the idea first, and then you slowly search for the best ways to put out the work in between things. So yeah, I think thank you for introducing the work as well. I think it was a very nice wrap up for the open meeting, because it shows really your basic interest in creating media art work. So thank you very much. Any final comment from you? How was today's meeting?
It was really nice, really refreshing actually to see all of people I cooperated more or less during last months. It's really nice. And
Thank you.
what should I say? Yes, so probably this approach, as I explained it, maybe the talkie really explains why I'm still sometimes going back to cooperations with other artists, actually with other persons, because it's not related only to artists. So definitely cooperations is a situation. They are a situation which can put you in the context you cannot put yourself. So if you are in some way fixed on your own way of thinking, way of doing things, you have to cooperate to break this barrier to make something new. So it's always an exchange. Sometimes it's a painful process. Not in case of Oki and Hyunjung, because those processes are really stimulating. So it's so in this case that was simpler. And
Okay.
probably also my background in music is important on that field, because if you're working with music, you are sometimes working with a band, and band or the group is very basic, natural way of cooperation, and actually nobody is explaining what actually means to be in a band, but everybody is feeling that the band is some kind of very special cell, like a family or something. That's very, very clear relation, even for people which are not in the bands, because they are not playing music or something. They can imagine what is that. So I think that's my, final statement. And
yeah, it's very
of
clear.
course,
Yeah.
also I'm very grateful for all of you for this months of work and your time, but also your actually cooperative attitude. So for me, that is something which is really, freeing my imagination. If I feel that sometimes unclear, strange ideas are accepted, that is really, really something which can bring you to another level, because you are not fighting against reality, but you have a support, you have partners. That's very important.
Especially now in this time of pandemic.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So I think this is it for the open meeting, collaboration meeting. So yeah, keep in touch with everyone, right? So we can, until when we can meet in Sapporo or somewhere else. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pavel-san. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day in snowy Wrocław.
Yeah, I have to find a way to go home back. That will
Be careful.
See you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye-bye.